Hey guys, Rob from the Off-Grid Tiny House. Just wanted to make a little video here regarding my tiny house. And basically, I see a lot of the tiny house movement going to pretty drastic extremes. I just watched Living Big in a Tiny House on YouTube, and they're fully built for them. They basically paid somebody to build it, used high-end materials, everything like that. $50,000. Insane. That's American. So the same tiny house built here would be $100,000 in Canadian money, which is basically a house, a conventional house. So sure, it looks nice, it's nice and showy, it's good for the camera. They like living in it, and they better like living in it for 50,000 bucks. But I could fit 3 of those tiny houses inside of my tiny house, and yeah, my tiny house cost $2,000. That's with unfinished, raw, the skeleton, the shell. So the tiny house movement's kind of out of whack. Everybody wants to build these really high-end, fancy tiny houses. And you guys, and if you follow me, if you're a subscriber, you've heard me talk about this before. And it's quite interesting. They spend almost as much as a conventional house on a tiny house. And most of the time, I'm going to say 90% of the time, the house still needs to be plugged into the grid. If you're going to spend that kind of money and you still got to plug into the grid, I see a major issue with the movement. Basically, what it's all about is unplugging from the grid, unplugging from the conventional, and, you know, getting back to what we should be doing as opposed to what the government says we should be doing. Because you know how wonderful the government works, right guys? So anyways, shocking, shocking, shocking. And this guy makes a living on YouTube by going and visiting tiny houses all over the place. And most of them are over, the prices they throw out are outrageous. Like, I would say it is almost hurting the tiny house movement. Because the whole beginning, the founder, the video I watched before this latest one, he went and visited the founder of the tiny house movement, which was a homeless guy living in California. And he did it, he was basically doing an art project, but he had, because of the way the economy went and everything like that, he ended up living in his art project and converting this little trailer into a tiny house, which he lived in and for years. And I guess he's moved on to he just showed his new build, which only cost $5,000, and I could probably fit 6 of those or more into this tiny house. Now, it was nice. It was tiny, very tiny, because I can fit like 6 of them in here. And but it was all finished, looked nice, and for 5,000 bucks, that's more of a reasonable price. That's what the tiny house movement roots should be going back to, in my opinion. And then the other end of the spectrum, you got all the HGTVs and the Home and Garden and DIY Network channels. They go and build these tiny houses for people, and they just throw the money at it, just burn the money up. 100,000, plus American for a tiny house. The equivalent here, it costs $200,000. So it's unbelievable the money they're spending, and it's totally. I think what's going on is, in the beginning, the tiny house movement was grassroots, but was hijacked by people who, I don't know, are they trying to make money? What is the purpose of pouring all this money into a tiny house when in the beginning it's all about getting off the grid, being able to own everything, being out of debt, being minimalist, and so on and so forth, doing everything yourself, building it yourself if possible. But the prices are just outrageous. Like, I don't know, it's not good for the movement, in my opinion. People are just, it's almost like a competition where, oh, my tiny house has this, and has this, and look how nice it is on camera. And then, you know, what's the deal? I believe we need to get back to the grassroots. It has to be affordable. It has to be under a certain amount of money. I spent quite a bit of money on this tiny house project. This trailer, the shell from the start, cost $2,000 delivered. Came with 2 IBC totes, food grade, which I wanted. And in the beginning, actually, that's how I found out the tiny how to get a trailer like this. I was looking for IBC totes for rainwater collection, and the guy said, well, because in my area, there's not a lot of stuff around, like trailers for sale and stuff like that. So I went on like a Craigslist, basically Kijiji, it's what it's called, and it's basically like a Craigslist, right? So I got in contact with a company who was selling IBC totes. I asked, hey, I want to buy these totes, but can you look around for me in your area, any used trailers or anything? Can you get me some pictures, a price, and what it's going to cost for you guys to deliver it? Because you're going to deliver my totes anyway somehow, so why not throw the totes in the trailer and let's get her done. So I made a deal with the guy, and it was just a little bit over $2,000 with everything safety delivered. You can't beat it. You can't beat it. And then I went ahead and did my own DIY. I didn't really have a building plan. I was on the cuff. I was figuring out what's going to work, what's not, and that's what I ended up with in the tiny house. Now you can make changes anytime you want and change things around, but whatever suits your needs. So I learned a lot. If I was to do a new build again, I would do I'd know all the don'ts, that's for sure. And I believe my total cost with off-grid solar and the whole 9 yards, it was 20,000 Canadian with everything finished. Other than, now that may sound a lot for you guys, but convert that to US, where most of my viewers live, that's only $10,000. And this place is huge. It has a lot of amenities. I'm still working on it, still spending a little bit of money to get the tiny house complete. And then I can go ahead and spruce things up, new paint, fix little things here and there, whatever. My biggest expense coming up is going to be my giant off-grid solar battery bank, because I'm only running off of one battery right now, and it does well. I used to have 2, but the other one was so old that it finally gave up the ghost, especially after this harsh winter we had. But things are working out well, really well. And then the next thing going on is rain catchment is the major thing I'm going to be working on this spring, summer, as well as putting the wind turbine up and hooking up the new battery bank and getting everything wired up. I want to start an aquaponics setup, get that going, and then I can think about really moving in here full time. So the whole goal with the tiny house movement anyway, guys, getting back to that, in my eyes, first of all, I have 0 electricity bill, 0 sewage and water bill, and part of that is I don't have any water at the moment till the spring when I put in my rain catchment system. I already have the storage back there ready to go. Just got to plumb it. I do not have a gas bill, but I do have a propane fireplace and a wood stove right there. But I try to run the wood stove as much as the time as possible. I basically fill the stove up before bed, dampen it down, then I have the propane on a thermostat remote, which will come on if the tiny house hits a cool temperature that I set it at, or a setting that I set at. So it keeps everything nice and toasty. Get up, shut the propane off, start a fire again if the coals have gone out, and repeat the process. So not only do I produce all my electricity via the solar, I will be producing my own water shortly. And I produce my own heat by getting free pallet woods that are, relatively, I try to pick out the driest stuff and I bring it in here and let it season and it goes to town. And that's the way it's supposed to be, guys. It's not supposed to be, oh, you're gonna go park it and plug it in. No. If you want to do that, buy an RV, buy a mobile home, go that route. I don't know why. I don't know what the understanding is of spending these huge amounts of money on tiny houses. I think it is some kind of, I don't know. It's some kind of, somebody's behind it and they have some kind of reasoning for it. Be interesting to see what happens in the future. But anyway, there you go. There's my little rant on tiny houses. Why are we going that direction? What do you guys think? Hit the thumbs up button, leave a comment. What do you think the reasoning is why these tiny houses are going up? They're insane. Like, if you watch any of these mainstream shows on tiny houses, and even on YouTube, it's just ridiculous the kind of money people are spending on this stuff. I just don't understand it. I really don't. And especially if you build a tiny house for $100 and something thousand, what about the depreciation? If you have to end up selling that, I think you're going to be out an awful lot of money. You're not going to be able to recoup the same amount or higher. You're going to be going the other direction, and it's not going to be good. Yeah, so something to think about, guys. Hit me up in the comments. Tell me what you guys think. What is going on with the tiny house movement? Why are we getting away from the grassroots? Let's build your own little tiny house, budget, off the grid, self-sufficient, minimalist. Why are we going into screwball land where we can just burn money, just throw your wallet at it and let it burn and get into, unbelievable kind of stuff. Even people are going into debt to buy tiny houses. Like, what? I don't know. Well, see you in the comments. Tell me what you think.